admit that FC24 is just the most unrealistic game that we've had to date? With the bugs, the glitches and the gameplay at times looking like one of them Japanese football films. And by the time you started a new career mode and you're 2 seasons deep, you're bored and you've lost your head with it. And no matter how far and wide you look, to find a slider setup that's both realistic and challenging, it's just an absolute impossibility. But one day, as I'm scrolling through my comments, go and unearth an absolute Jembo Jones. A detailed slider setup for someone who wanted to use ultimate difficulty, but still maintaining that realism. And also just making sure that the game was still fun. That user was Sneaker Saint 987. Shout out to the GOAT. And after rigorous testing, we are ready to reveal them to the world. Right, geezers, let's have a look at these bad boys then. Realistic sliders. And I feel like these might be the most realistic sliders I've ever used. Absolutely incredible gameplay. Proper challenging. Keeps the game proper fun. Right then, so let's go with the user sliders to start with. So, we're starting on 8 sprint speed, which, if you've seen these sliders before, you know I love a little bit of a slower gameplay. It just feels so much more realistic. And a little bit more challenging. It's not arcadey. You're not flying forward every 2 seconds and then sprinting back because the team have nicked the ball off you and they're in on goal straight away. Acceleration. Again, this is mostly for your centre-back side of things. So making sure that your centre-backs actually do keep up with some of the strikers. Now, you are going to see a difference with the strikers and defenders being able to keep up with them, but it's most of the time it's going to be your strikers that have got like 80, 90 rated speed and acceleration, a very high acceleration. So I've been playing with Moussa Diaby. The geezer just is so easily getting away from defenders. But then Ollie Watkins, who's been more time on this game, has been almost unplayable because of his speed. Actually feels a little bit more realistic. He has to slow up, he has to front people up and potentially beat them with a little bit of skill and that. Shot error has been upped slightly from what I use in my my other career mode sliders, but it's still pretty decent, still pretty challenging because we're still using precision shooting. So I'm still enjoying it. If you can get it down and you can get precision shooting working for you, it's absolute game changing. You'll see some of the goals I've scored here. We're still scoring pretty nice goals, but it's just a little bit more difficult, a little bit more realistic, to be honest. Stops you scoring every 2 or 3 minutes. Pass error. Now this is where I've been struggling a little bit because CPU wise as well, I have lowered this a little bit just because pass error, the way it was in the original set of sliders, god damn, it was hard to put even a couple of passes together. And I do like, and it is realistic, where you play a little bit of a 1-2 kind of one-touch passing around a couple of defenders. Maybe you're playing triangles and things like that. That is realistic. Footballers have got them techers on them, but I don't want it to be happening every couple of minutes. And it's just exactly the same when you look at the CPU. We want that pass error, we want that first touch error, because we don't want them to be playing 1-2 touch football around us all the way up. Like I said, they're in on goal every 5 minutes. So it's feeling pretty good, but I've gone 70, and then obviously you've got 72 for the CPU, but we'll look at that in a second. Shot speed then. Now this one can be anywhere between about 45 and maybe 50. I've gone with 48. It's feeling good for me. Again, with the precision shooting as well, you want them to have a little bit of a decent shot speed on them. But also, it's one of them things, it's what's up to you. Do you like it? If not, change it, you know what I mean? Pass speed, quite low, so 32. Again, keeps the game ticking quite slowly, quite realistic. It's nice. It's nice to have that little bit of passing around the midfield, and it's exactly the same with the CPU as well. Actually, that their pass speed being lower it just gives the game a bit more weight to it, rather than it being ping left, right and centre and just feeling real unrealistic. Injury frequency is up there, but injury severity, and to be fair, you could probably even go further down on the injury severity. You don't want people to be injured every couple of minutes, but also if they are injured for the game or they're injured for the next 10 minutes, again, it's quite realistic. People get knocks, people get taken off, but then they're fit for the next game. So injury frequency at 85, and then your injury severity down at 25. Goalkeeping ability, 55. This is feeling pretty good, to be honest. I haven't got much to say about it. Some realistic saves. Some of the time when I've had, like, I don't know, Nick Pope in one of the games got done out by an absolutely terrible deflection. But then also there's saves like from Emi Martinez that you'd expect him to make, but also that seemed like they were going to cause him a little bit of difficulty. So at the moment, I'm feeling 55, especially with the shot error as it is. It's difficult to get shots on target, so when they do go on target, you want them to have an absolute decent chance here. And you can see the Ollie Watkins goal here. I probably wouldn't have scored that if the goalkeeping ability was any higher than that. So 55, feeling pretty decent. Marking, don't touch it. Ultimate difficulty is feeling good with this marking the way it is. I think all the rest of them put together, all the rest of the stats put together, it's feeling pretty decent at the moment. So I'm saying don't touch the marking, and I totally agree with the original sliders that we had. Run frequency quite low. Again, decreases or increases the number of runs the teammates and the user will make. I like to make sure that I can tell my runners when I want them to run, whether we're using them green friggin' whatever they're called, or we're using the L1 X passing and things like that, getting them to start running. You know, I like to do it from the back sometimes, where I drop the ball off with someone, wait for my centre defensive midfielder or my centre back even to make a run, and then try and pick him out with a long ball. Line height specifies how low or high line positions themselves for the user team. So again, quite high. Again, given the opportunity to play balls in behind, because the pass error is so high and the pass speed is so low that actually, even if they do dink balls over the top, it's not going to be too unrealistic for you to actually get back and make a challenge. And again, with the sprint speed the way it is, it's actually feeling quite nice because they are slow-ish. And then obviously when you get on the ball, it just goes back to default. Line length then, so the length of the pitch. So feeling quite compact. Again, along with the line height, the line length kind of squashes the play. So rather than them being higher up the pitch or lower up the pitch, it just squashes it. Quite realistic. Again, if you're going to start trying to play overhead balls, we'll come on to the gameplay settings in a second, but if you're going to start playing long balls, which I really like to do, I utilise them quite a lot, then it's going to be difficult, and you've got to get them absolutely on the money. So I like the fact that my midfield is feeling quite dense, quite compact, because it gives you the chance then to use some of the wings and stuff like that. But crossing, it's hard. Whip through balls and stuff like that is hard as well. Line width then, how compact or how stretched they are. I feel that this 49 is looking pretty good, to be honest. You could even take it down to 45, but at the moment for me, I'm feeling that 49 is quite nice. Again, if you're trying to play those diagonal balls that I utilise all the time, this is making me think twice about it, making me stop doing that. So it's a little bit more varied gameplay and a little bit more realistic as well. Power bar on 50, fullback positioning again on 50. This changes with your formation. So if you're playing wing backs in your formation, so at the moment in this Villa, well actually let me show you. So in this formation that I'm using at the moment, I'm having Luca Dean, Torres and Konsa being my almost centre back 3, and then I've got Moreno, which because Matty Cash is injured, he pushes up a little bit further. But then on this side, I normally have Diaby or Ramsey to slot in here. and then I allow Bailey or Diaby to go and sit out quite wide here. So it just compensates for Digne is probably not going to play forward that often, but I want Moreno or Cash to be up and down, and then again compensating it from on this side as well. So when we're looking at our settings, I don't think this matters too much if I've got strict instructions on my left and right back to be doing a specific job. But if you want them bombing on, to be fair, you could even up that rather than using formation tactics, but I prefer to use the formation tactics. Last but not least then, for the user settings, is the first touch control. Now, this is a little bit controversial. It's a little bit controversial for me, I ain't going to lie to you. I hate it when you've got this first touch error so high. For me, it makes the game less fun. But in this situation, I think with all of these other stats, this actually makes it feel not only realistic, but also quite challenging rather than not fun. So I'm really enjoying this. I wouldn't put it as high as 90. 87 for me is feeling okay. Now, if you go onto the CPU, again, to be fair, I could even lower them. I would probably even lower it. I'd probably lower it to 86. And then if we go in on to this side, you could also up that to 90. But again, I'm feeling that 88 is a bit of a happy medium. So I'd go with the user settings, I'd go 86. And then the CPU, like I said, I'd up it to 88. But again, needs must. You can change it, you can chop it. I would only change it or chop it by about 2 or 3 though. Don't be changing it anything crazy. As we go over to the CPU settings then, all pretty much the same, so I'm not going to go over these too much, but we're just going over which ones that are potentially a little bit of a discrepancy. So 8 sprint speed, again, it's feeling quite realistic. It gives a little bit more weight to the game rather than it being people floating about on a pitch and just flying left, right and centre. Acceleration 51 again, this kind of links back in more to your defenders, where you've got players like Diaby and stuff like that, who are the only players that should be beating your centre back realistically for pace. Like, again, even when we look at like what we consider the slowest centre backs and that, like Wes Morgan, like back in the day, in a game situation, he looked mega slow. He was actually one of the quickest players at Leicester. So everyone on a football pitch is athletic. So it's not actually that unrealistic. But again, you want your players like Diaby to feel players like Diaby rather than it being like, why the bloody hell is this geezer just getting caught every single time. Shot error, exactly the same for CPU and for user. Pass error, I've upped it slightly now. You know what ultimate difficulty is like. You know what they're going to do. They're just going to pass you about in the midfield. Knock balls around you. Pass and move. They've got that almost like telepathy about them. So, again, you know what it's going to be. But upping this gameplay, the gameplay settings to it and the difficulty, you've got to take it and leave it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the best FIFA player in the world, but I feel like I've got a decent handling on the game and they can still pass me about sometimes. Shot speed then, 48. It's exactly the same as user settings. Pass speed, again, exactly the same. And so too for the run frequency and the injury severity. Goalkeeping ability, I found it probably could go a little bit lower, to be honest. I've struggled to score some goals. But personally, if I'm playing for just my own pleasure rather than playing for gameplay, I want the keeper to pull off some absolute worldy saves. So upping this maybe a little bit is the right thing to do. But again, if you're struggling, drop it down by 5, stick it to 50. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Marking, again, don't touch it. Ultimate difficulty, I think they're playing really well in terms of the marking and things like that. Run frequency, again, this is exactly the same. I believe it is. Yes, it is. So again, run frequency, the amount of times that people are going to make runs and things like that. You don't want to be finding your opposition out of position every single time. It's just not going to be fun. You're going to score bangers. You're going to score left, right and centre. So making sure that they can stick to position and that they hold their position to a certain extent. You'll still get teams like Liverpool and Man City where, say, like a John Stones or I had with Virgil van Dijk, he would step out of defence, and obviously then his run frequency would be slightly higher than everyone else's, but it's the same for real life. Virgil van Dijk does step out of midfield, out into midfield, and so does John Stones. So again, you will get some of those players out of position every now and again, but playing against Liverpool and Man City is hard enough as it is. Line height then 62. Again, they push up a little bit, but it's a lot harder to play the balls over the top because of some of the other settings, which I'll show you in a second, like your long balls, your chip through balls and stuff like that. They are a lot more difficult with this specifically. And again, thinking about your pass error, users pass error, where is it? There you go, pass error being 70. It's hard to play these through balls, and it's hard to play these chip through balls as well. So again, their line height, it's not exactly making much of a difference to you. Line length, again, quite compact. Like I said, with the user settings, nice and compact midfield is good. I'm enjoying it, and it gives them the opportunity to maybe play it around the back a little bit, try and see if there's any space within their centre backs, and then we slide the ball through the middle of them. Line width then, so the width of the pitch, again 59. I'm feeling it's quite a balanced thing. It's not too unrealistic where the left and right back are just sitting on your left and right wingers. They do tuck in a little bit, but again, this probably could go down to 45 potentially, but at the moment 49 is working like a treat for me. Fullback position at 50, again, they do attack, but they also defend. We don't want them out of position too often, so I think a medium one for this one is pretty nice. And we've already talked about first touch control. You could probably up that, but at the moment, probably about 86 is where I'd go lowest. 88 for me is feeling good, but 90 if you're really struggling with it. But that is a sliders then for it. But of course, we have to go and look at the gameplay settings as well. So I'm going on competitive. I don't want auto shots, assisted headers, things like that. It's all, for me, competitive is the best thing to use. Shot assistance is still on precision. If you watch my Ajax rebuild, oh my god, the amount of bangers I'm scoring at the minute with precision shooting is absolutely ridiculous. 100% yeah, I don't put in the ones where I go and hit the corner flag. So the amount of goals that I'm actually scoring compared to the ones I'm actually missing is crazy as well. I do fluff a load of chances, but precision for me is the best. When you catch it sweet, 9 times out of 10 it's going to fly in the back of the net. And as you've seen, no, it's my fault if I mess it up, basically. Pass receiver lock. Now, this is something that I've been playing around with a little bit, and I've been a little bit pissed off with the late. it's most of the time I'm feeling it with headers, that my players are overrunning headers and things like that and running under the ball. So I'm going with animation start as to when it locks onto that player, but it's definitely something I'm going to be playing with, definitely something I'm going to be messing around with. But if any of you geezers in the comments can tell me what this actually does and which one of these to put it on, I'll be much appreciated, because I am struggling with this and I'm struggling to see exactly how it's helping me. And I think some of my players are still running under the ball. So if you can tell me how to stop players running under the ball or running away from headers, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be much appreciated. Defending, we're going to leave these as they are. Directional clearance, again, I feel, for me personally, it's way better when I know the direction of my clearance. Tactical defending has to be. Pass block assistance, we're leaving on. Auto switching, yeah, for loose balls and in the air only. And I think that is about it. So these are the settings that I am going to be using for my more realistic gameplay. And this is for me normally when I want something realistic, I want something challenging. So for my own Villa career mode that I'm doing at the moment, I'm just playing with these. And this is what I normally do. I've got a career mode going on the side where I just play a couple of games a day maybe, or maybe even once or twice a week. This is for me when I want a real challenging game that's not going to go on YouTube when I'm just playing around myself. Make sure that you let me know in the comments below what you're thinking of these. Are they good? Are you thinking they're crap? And what are some of the ones that you use yourself in your own career modes? Like I've said before, guys, if you've got any sliders or gameplay settings that you want to submit, I'll be more than happy. This is a user submission, and what a submission is. I've got to say, this is some of the best realistic gameplay I've ever used, I've ever played with. In this game is pretty unrealistic as it is, and this for me, it's just top. And that is it, my geezers, for another sliders setup. Now, if you haven't already, make sure that you've liked this video. It's your first time around here, get yourself subscribed so you don't miss any of my other content. And also, make sure that you're commenting down in the sections below what you think about these sliders. And also, if you've got any other ideas for sliders, I want to hear all about them. We'll be back on Saturday for the Houser in Town Creator Club career mode. It's much love for me, and peace.